Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Geek and I podcast. We have a full house tonight. Unfortunately, Jeff is still on assignment, and Bill is out making a movie somewhere in this wonderful world we live in. But tonight we have a special guest. I want to welcome, we'll start with him. It is Mark D with a C from the Mark D with a C YouTube channel. Mark, good to see you.
Wow, I made the credits. That was a great opening. Thank you.
Well, that's why I'm sorry. That's why I was bugging you all week, trying to. Hey, are you going to be in there? Are you going to be? Are you going to
show up? Yeah, with the credits, yeah, and everything. Yeah, I don't get that fancy on my show. Wow, very nice. Yep. No, great to be here. Great to meet everyone, and yeah, it was nice to meet you on my Sunday night show. So glad to be able to come over here, and then we'll have to have you on Sunday Night Geekery very, very soon. Yep, to hang out with our crazy gang over there.
Yeah, that I don't know if you guys have ever seen the Sunday Night Geekery. It is so much fun. Just everybody just chit chatting and talking about whatever comes to mind. It's like 3 or 4 guys that have 8-track tapes for brains, where all of a sudden it'll go and switch to something completely different, and it's a lot of fun. So I check it out Sunday nights. What time do you guys usually start?
10 p.m. Eastern. Yep, 10 p.m. Eastern. Yep. So on Sunday. Yep. So it's a late night show. But it's fun to do it, and I used to start at 11 p.m. and then that was hurting my sleep for Monday morning for work. But so I said, and my friends are bugging me, my good friends. So I said, let's do 10 p.m. But it's a nice way to wrap up the week. And usually there's a lot of entertainment news, and of course we're going to talk about obviously just learning, Carl Weathers tragically passed away recently. So things like that, and that's sad news. But we'll just give a recap. Like I finally got to see Godzilla -1 minus color. So just got to see that this week. So we'll talk a little bit more about that fun movie and how good that movie was. So yeah, just it's a random, and whatever the chat brings up in the chat too, that's always fun. So you never know what's gonna happen. So it's a show of randomness that, and sometimes devolves into food talk too. So I like to do barbecue and cooking. So that always ends up being a topic too for fun. So this week we'll probably do some favorite food for tailgating for the big sports ball game coming up.
Right. That's 2 weeks.
2 weeks, yeah. You gotta prepare though for that. Yeah, you gotta be ready for all the appetizers and chili and wings and whatever. Yep.
Yeah. And Deb, how are you tonight?
Doing well.
You're looking a little orange.
Well,
the sun's setting in your universe.
The sun's already gone. Usually I think it's around 5:30 now the sun goes down, so
it's getting better.
Yes, it is. We had 2 days of sunshine, so
wow. 2 days.
Yeah, well, it's just been gloomy and rainy and sometimes sleety and been very depressing.
Well, Martin, let me ask you, Punxsutawney, he did not see his shadow today, so what does that mean?
Well,
early.
I'm not that heavily into the serious sciences, but I believe what it means is that we will have an early spring.
Yes.
And the nice news
Awesome.
is, from what I understand, every groundhog survived this year. So that
Blasio didn't kill any of the groundhogs this year.
Yeah, no. De Blasio laid low and did not drop and kill any groundhogs.
Well, that's good news.
I mean, what he does in the privacy of his own home is his business, but he wasn't out in public killing them.
Well, I guess, I don't know, was the groundhog legal or illegal? So
well, if he committed a crime, he'd be instantly released anyway without bail.
Yeah, he would have been out.
Right. Yeah. So I wanted to start off a little differently this week. Instead of talking about this week's episode, The Naked Time, we had some, I guess, Mark, you mentioned it earlier, bad news, depressing news. And I saw the tweet come over from deadline, and it's unfortunate that we are at a point now where I had to go check for 3 or 4 more sources to see if it was real, but it turns out that Carl Weathers, Apollo Creed, what was his name in The Mandalorian? Grief Karga.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he played Dylan
Dylan.
in Predator. He sadly passed away, 76 years old. Family says he passed restfully in his sleep. And everybody is going, from what I've been seeing, reading the stories about, what the actors are saying about him. But I came across this one in Deadline today, and it's Stallone. So I want to play this little Instagram post from Sylvester Stallone about his friend Carl Weathers. Let's see what he has to say.
Nope. Do we have the? I don't hear the audio enough.
Let's try that again. I don't know if you don't hear that?
No.
I couldn't hear it. I don't know if it's going out to YouTube or not, but
Oh well. He see if I share my screen again. Let's try share audio. Hopefully we don't get an echo this time.
Or share.
Was such an integral part of my life, my success, everything about it. I give him incredible credit and kudos because when he walked into that room and I saw him for the first time, I saw greatness, but I didn't realize how great. I never could have accomplished what we did with Rocky without him. He was absolutely brilliant. His voice, his size, his power, his athletic ability, but more importantly, his heart, his soul. It's a horrible loss. And I'm standing here in front of this painting because it was probably the last moment we were ever in the ring together, and I'll never forget it. He was magic. And I was so fortunate to be part of his life. So, Apollo, keep punching.
What do you remember your first, I guess, viewing of Apollo, Carl Weathers? Where did you see him first? Deb?
Theaters. Yeah. What was it? Let's see, Rocky came out in 76, right?
Yep.
So yeah. First viewing in 76 at the theaters.
Martin, what was your first run-in with Carl Weathers?
I would say for people of our generation, it would have to be Rocky. And just remember when he came on screen, he had this presence that not a lot of actors can do, convey in a very short amount of time. You never really saw Apollo as the bad guy, which is a hard thing to do in a movie like that, in an underdog story. But Apollo was the one who kind of got that, this guy could be serious. He never sold him short. And I think what they did with his character in 2 and furthermore in 3, kind of just matured that a bit. I know he's only in the recap scenes and the hospital scene in Rocky 2, but yeah, I thought he was just brilliant. And I will tell you, my favorite of his films was his big solo vehicle, which was a staple of video stores in the 80s, and that is Action Jackson,
Oh yeah.
which is a great 80s action film and deserves a lot more love than it gets.
True.
Yep, that should have been a franchise.
Mark, do you remember your first?
It's gotta be Rocky. I mean, I don't one of the first movies I went to see was Star Wars in '77. I had to beg my dad to take me and my sister to see that. So I probably saw it on I'm guessing it was on Rocky was on TV probably or later on VHS. And I remember going to see probably Rocky 3 in the movie theaters. But like you said, yeah, he's quote unquote he's the bad guy, Apollo Creed, but he's got such a great heart that but you need that presence or something to work against. Like look at like Darth Vader or Ricardo Montalban as Khan. You need that other person, working against your hero. Otherwise, the movie doesn't work that well. If if you look at any of the Marvel movies that don't have good villains. But he had a charm to him and a likability too, as that bad guy, as you're saying, Marty. Like he wasn't. You really didn't hate him. He was just the big. He was the heavyweight champion in that movie, and that movie, Stallone is right. He's, that movie doesn't work without brilliance of Carl Weathers and Action Jackson. I did see in the movie theater. I love that, and that was back in the '80s with the everyone doing their the big pumped up action hero, and we don't get anything. We don't get maybe John Wick is
Yeah, the closest.
that's
Yeah.
the closest to that, but those are some good days there. It's Stallone and Schwarzenegger and Bruce Willis later in Die Hard. These great action stars. So yeah, it was shot, and of course Happy Gilmore. He was fantastic,
Of
and
course, yeah.
Happy Gilmore. I mean, who doesn't love? And we just lost Bob Barker, I think, early in the year too. But that's a great movie. He's got a fantastic role in that. So, he was a NFL player too. Don't forget either. So,
Yeah.
linebacker, talented athlete to begin with, who transitioned to acting. But I thought he was just an actor.
No,
Mhm.
and he
Selection in
could
the
do
NFL.
action, he could do drama, he could do comedy. I remember when he did his guest appearances on Arrested Development, where he was playing
Yeah.
a version of himself with the acting school. He was absolutely hysterical in that.
Yeah.
And that was a tough show to steal, to steal away from the regular cast, but he did it.
And he was just tweeting out of. I mean, I'm assuming it was him tweeting. I was following his Twitter feed and would pop up, and he was always usually, had some fun things to say. And once in a while, I got into politics. I kind of tried to ignore that. But
Mhm.
I'm assuming it was him. He just tweeted a couple days ago, so this was a big shot. I mean, it looked like he was, I hadn't heard any health concerns or anything like that. So, and he was just. And what was his last role? Would have been in the Mandalorian or in. Not Man. What was the last Star Wars TV show that he would have been in? I'm trying to remember now, but not that it wasn't that long ago, right? I mean, so yeah, shame.
Yeah, I remember the first time I didn't see Rocky in theaters in '76. I didn't see that until probably on VHS. So the first time that I saw Carl Weathers, when I went back to rewatch the movie that I saw him in, I could have sworn I said to myself, I thought Carl Weathers was in this. But for some reason, in the special edition of Close Encounters, he ended up on the cutting room floor. And I remember him. I remember his character from Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Wow.
And that was the first time that I saw Carl Weathers when he's questioning Richard Dreyfuss at the gate.
He was an MP, right?
Yeah, he was an MP, and why do you want to go here? And when they re-released it in the special edition, it magically disappeared. And I searched all over for it. And then when I finally got the Blu-ray with the original theatrical release and the director's cut, and then it had like 4 different cuts on it. And sure enough, he was there. And I remember one of the funnest nights we had in radio. I was working at B103 on Long Island, and we were doing a thing called the movie clip deal. And I played that clip of Carl Weathers from Close Encounters, and it was name the actor and the title of the movie. And it took 3 hours for people
Wow.
to figure out that it was Close Encounter. They all knew it was Carl Weathers because they knew his voice.
Yeah.
But
GPT couldn't help with that.
yeah, well, it wasn't around then.
Yeah. We were Chad. We were the AI.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I think I'm still a little artificial. But yeah, so Carl Weathers, we actually saw him, Jeff and I saw him at the Dallas Fan Expo 2 years ago. He was down here signing. I was actually the first one after the cold syndrome that we had going around. So that was the first expo that we had seen, and he was down there, and he was just such a nice guy. So, Carl, rest in peace. We will miss you, and we hope to. Hopefully, there's some out there that have already shot some stuff where we can enjoy another film or another TV show one last time. So,
Yep. And thanks for all the entertainment.
So now let's pivot and talk about tonight's main topic, The Naked Time. What episode number is this, Marty?
I knew you were going to ask me this. 4.
Yeah.
No,
Oh, originally?
I'm going with 4 because when I looked it up and everything, it seems to be in production order and this one is air date production order, so I'm going with 4.
On Paramount, it's 5.
Well, it's actually
I'll tell you why it's 5, because they're putting their unaired pilot first, which then bumps everybody down one. It's so
Right.
hard to keep track of this.
That's why I asked you. You had the numbers last week. I listened back to last week, and I still can't figure out what we were talking about.
I think we're gonna replace the Picard "There are 4 lights" meme with me just yelling what episode number we're at.
Well, I have it as 7 on my list, but they're including the Cage as 1. No Man Has Gone Before 2, so that's minus those 2. So yeah, so 5. But it's early on in the show. It aired after it was the Cage, The Man Trap, Charlie X, Where No Man Has Gone Before, and then The Naked Time in air date order. So this is
it's fair to say it's in the first 25% of episodes. I'm gonna just start doing fractions and percentages now.
Yeah, we know it's season 1, so
Yeah, season 1. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're all in
Yeah.
agreement there. Yeah.
season 1 episode. Okay.
I was hoping my brain wouldn't get fried today.
Yeah. So here we are at the start of the episode. The Enterprise is flying around to, what is the name of this planet?
Psi
Psi?
2000.
Yes, apparently named after the one-hit wonder from a couple of years ago. So
And this planet is basically shrinking and gonna explode.
well, can we talk about that for a second? As much as I love the remastered editions, I think they missed a great opportunity to actually show what would happen to a planet that is condensing upon itself. I no scientist again, as the groundhog can confirm, but I'm pretty sure it wouldn't be so peaceful and tranquil looking as this planet is gravitationally collapsing upon itself.
Yeah, it's just
They
like
kinda make
shrinking,
them
like just like a
spin
shrinky dink in the oven.
Yeah, it's yeah. So yes, that was one of my takeaways, was that as much as the enhancements are really good in this episode, they missed an opportunity to kind of hit it out of the park, in my opinion.
I wonder if they wanted to adhere as close as they could to the original, because I agree with you, but I wonder if they didn't want to, get
That's
yelled at and mess with the original effects. Keep it the same, but just
that's
enhance it.
what I've read, but I don't know. I think the effect does not support the story or the science that's involved in this one.
No, I agree with you.
And-
I agree with you. Yeah.
and you can kind of see the show is still getting its footing early on.
Yeah, it's this was another one that I've seen bits and pieces of many, many times, and I just lose interest, and I've never seen the end of it. So this kind of like last week's show could have done with a little cut down.
Mhm.
But basically, we're beaming down to this planet where I guess folks are frozen. Now, is it because
they turned off all the environmental controls, or someone turned off the environment? They went nuts.
Yeah, the establishing shot shows that it's an ice planet. You saw the wind and the snow. But I look at this picture here and just wonder how many people died of asbestos poisoning from this
Really?
one scene. And nothing takes you out of we're in the future in space like wooden chairs sprayed with foam.
that's from the commissary, I guess. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I was like, first thing that jumped out at me, we didn't have the standard Federation swivel chair.
And he froze so quickly that he's holding his book.
Oh, I thought it was his box of cereal. Okay, book makes more sense.
He's having breakfast.
He's having breakfast.
It was morning watch.
And of course, you've got the decon suits, and you know what those are made out of, right? Shower curtains.
Whatever was laying around is what those
Mhm.
were.
It's actually shower curtains. So people
Yes.
that cosplay and find the shower. And I mean, I have to say, Star Trek, the knock was, they said, didn't have a big budget, but this episode, I was reading in my reference book here, it was a cost of $1.3 million in 2015 dollars. So it wasn't a cheap show. I mean, they spent a ton of money on this, and it's expensive to do a show like this, but they cut a lot of corners, and things like
This
that.
one bothers me because even in 1966, people would have instantly recognized that as a shower curtain.
Yeah.
It's
And the hoods don't seal either, which is a big.
for an environmental suit, that would
Yeah, I'm watching this, and this guy, he takes his gloves off.
Look where he puts it. Total lack of respect for the dead. He drops it on the guy's head. I caught the same thing.
Yeah, and the actor actually asked the director. He said, I probably have a PhD in engineering and biosciences, as a an astronaut or someone in Starfleet. He's like, would I really do this? Take the glove off? And he said, no, you wouldn't. But if you don't, we won't have an episode. So you have to do it. So some things you kind of gotta forgive and say that's part of the writing, or that's how we get from A to B. But originally, as it was written, he was the way it spread to the Enterprise was they beam up. One of the characters was going to go with a decon suit and take the suits off, and just he was careless. We were supposed to dispose of it, and it got on his hand. He took his glove off, so that was maybe a little bit more believable. Like the guy that was supposed to be cleaning up after, didn't follow protocol, or the glove fell off or something. But they switched it to this, I guess, because they thought it looked more more exciting.
Apparently, he skipped Itchy Nose Day at the academy.
I always wondered.
Yeah.
I was going to ask an astronaut, like, what happens if your nose starts to? Have you ever had that happen where you're like nose? I mean, what happens if you're in the helmet? Do they have any? Like, oh my god, like I have an itch right now here. What do you do? Do you go crazy or what? Does any
I do that when I'm comfortable laying under my covers in bed. I'm like, my nose is itchy, but I am so cozy and warm. I don't want to move.
Yeah.
But
Does
this guy,
kind of remind you of a pattern like something a Ferengi would wear? Could you see like a suit made of this pattern?
Yeah.
I think that shower curtain was in my grandmother's house.
Well, it's worth a lot of money now, probably. The cosplay.
It sure is.
Well, there's too much mildew on it.
So not only does he take his glove off and then scratch his nose, he actually kneels down and grabs the wall. I mean, this guy deserves to catch something.
Well, if that's all supposed to be ice, wouldn't his hands get like freezer burn or something?
You're right. Yeah, you think it'd be pretty cold to touch, right? Yeah, without the
Yeah.
gloves.
So the guys who missed don't take your hand out of the glove missed that point too. So science, maybe this was pre-science advisor. Who the hell knows? But yeah, this guy is breaking every possible rule that you could do beaming down.
He was
See,
a Michael
now-
Jackson fan back then, just wearing one glove.
One glove.
Yeah. Well, you see, and this is where the thing I don't understand is the I guess that's blood, or is that the virus? What
It's
is
the virus?
So why couldn't they just have the virus crawl onto him, and then as he's taking his shoes off when he beam aboard, something. If the virus is still moving and not frozen, this got me in the very beginning because I just saw it and I was like, okay, this is going to be a fun one. And then then he does it again.
Yeah. He
Does
smells
he-
his
is-
hand after.
Is he right? Is he smelling his
Smell the
hand?
glove. He's
Yes,
from Spinal
that's-
Tap. Smell
That's
the glove.
exactly what he's doing. I have no words. I just have no words.
Well, like the director said, we don't have an episode without it. So they could have had. I think I agree. They should have done something maybe a little bit. Make it an accident, not being idiotic.
If his suit got punctured or something, well, and then he goes up and decontaminates, and then they realize he's got something we can't pick up. That would have been a more plausible explanation. And I'm just noticing the door open with a standard regular door with a door handle in the background. I've
Sliding
never
doors are
noticed that
expensive,
before.
Those are the French doors.
But do they
this was
still
a
make that sound when you
it was
open?
this was a French colony.
Okay. So maybe that's brie all over the walls.
So Spock comes back and says it's nothing like we've dealt with before because everybody's dead. And they can't figure out why. And then they beam up and so then we have the decontamination, not only because Spock reaches over and grabs him and says, stay here, and then tells Scotty, did you get my message? And they all get they get decontaminated by orange beams instead of the yellow.
Strobe lights.
And
Well, I did like that. At least they're paying attention. Going down. Too many shows or sci-fi shows, or they go places they don't even worry about it, or so at least they had that in the script where they knew something crazy had gone on this planet. So
yeah,
and in Star Trek, you've got the transporters has a biofilter. Later on they talk about, but that at least made sense that they would. It kind of looks hokey, but at least they had the common sense to do that.
I will give them credit for one thing on those terrible looking outfits, though. They at least thought to put in the risk communicator controls.
Oh, that's
So
right. Yeah.
they wouldn't flip open and be talking through.
Well, this guy would.
Yeah, this guy would. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're lucky this guy didn't take a big gulp down with him. But yeah, I like the fact that you just activated it like that and the system came on. That I thought showed a little thought.
So then we go, Kirk tells everybody, go into medical and get checked out. And we see Spock. I mean, did he work out for this episode? Because, I mean, he's thin as a rail. Or was he always this?
No, he was.
This-
Nimoy was thin. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was lanky when he was younger.
Yeah. And this is the first time they mention his blood being green, and the Roddenberry originally nixed that out of the script, and then he thought about it, and he doing the rewrites, and he had a lot of fights with the writer of this script because he rewrote it over the weekend. The writer delivered on Friday, and he rewrote it over the weekend, and the writer and him had a big falling out because I guess not supposed to do that, but Gene wanted to get the series going fast, had to get the script ready. But they included that Spock's blood was green. So you get a lot of setup, like we said in this. You're learning about the crew and finding out a lot of things. So that was one of the important things, Spock having that green blood, you green-blooded hobgoblin.
Once again, paging Starfleet HR.
Yeah.
A little microaggressive by the doctor there. And why is Spock dressed like he's going to beatnik poetry night?
Well, wasn't Nimoy's album? Didn't he have an album that was kind of like beatnik poetry
yes.
or something?
Yes, he did. Spoken word stuff and songs.
Yeah. So I mean, he fits right in, and I think this is the first time that I can remember. I mean, I don't know what episode number this was, but this is the first one that Spock is actually coming into his own character, and he looks and he acts like Spock. No real smiles, or he does have a different kind of sense of humor, but you can actually see the Spock character growing, and what Leonard Nimoy is doing with him.
Yep, I thought this was a real showcase for him.
Yeah, it's an important role episode for Spock, and of course you got to mention too the set design too with the med bay and the we're kind of making fun of some of the other set in the beginning, but this medical bay is just fantastic, and the sensors, with your pulse, and we have that now in the hospital, right? You go in the hospital, unfortunately or fortunately, you can see your blood rate, your heart rate, blood pressure. So, and the way that bed tilts forward, you can get in and out of that bed. I mean, it's a great, fantastic set design.
And this is opposite the last beds we saw, which were facing the other direction and had blocks on the walls that you
can work out with. Yeah, to get your heart rate up.
Yeah.
That's I think in the other room. That one. There's three on that side, and then there's I think 2 on the other side. The one with the blocks is where he does surgery sometimes.
Mm-hmm. So then we have what was this guy's name?
I wrote it down.
Was it
Tomalin?
Tomalin, yeah.
Tormalin.
Let's just call him Joe.
One
Joe.
glove.
This is
Joe,
Joe.
yeah.
This is Joe.
Yeah.
Now, I read something interesting that both this guy and the guy who plays Kevin Riley were both being considered for a semi-regular appearance on the show. So I don't know what this guy did to piss people off, but obviously he was one butter knife away from collecting unemployment.
So he this is where we first hear the virus.
The rattlesnake.
Yes. Yeah, the rattlesnake virus. And he checks his hand because I don't know, he likes that hand for some reason.
Not smelling
He's-
it this time. Just
He's
checking.
he's worried about his right hand,
His favorite hand.
his favorite hand.
Mhm.
So
On that note, when I went to go find this episode, if you put in Star Trek Naked Time, you'll be horrified at some of the stuff that comes.
Watch out when it comes across. Yeah.
Yeah, if you don't put the Naked Time, you get a very different set of results back. I was 45 minutes into watching the wrong movie before.
Why
you made
turn it off?
it to 45 minutes. Wow.
Well, I was waiting to see, like, it was usually 44 minutes they wrap it up, but when I hit 45, I was like, hey, something's wrong here. Wow, they all look so depressed.
The movie you were watching, the crew wasn't wearing clothes. That wasn't a warning.
That should have
sign.
been
Yeah,
that should have been the
episode.
first that should have been the first hint that something was wrong.
Yeah, it was just
Yeah.
called Naked Time. So this is our first glimpse of the Fab Four sitting around a table, right?
Yeah, briefing room.
And
They've got the
they're
memory cards, which was very cool too. When you think about it, back then everything was tapes, and so that was a nice choice that actually works to this day, having those memory cards or memory units stacked on the table. There you go.
Precursor to the floppy disk, I guess, right?
Mhm.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Another Star Trek invention. So they're checking out the planet and trying to figure out what's happening and how long, because they're sent there to observe the planet's destruction. So the planet has a 4-degree shift in the magnetic field, and then these people aren't smart enough to play 3D chess. They're actually playing 3D checkers.
Which is far more challenging than 3D Old Maid. So
Right, okay. So
I've
Yeah,
never
she
played
looks
3D
bored.
checkers.
yeah, she's like, I'm dating a guy who can't win at 3D checkers.
I can't believe I'm on this show.
By the way,
years later, yeah.
I'd like to mention how helpful everybody else was in the rec room when this guy tries to kill himself, and they all sit there and watch.
well, we'll get there. We'll get there. So he gets something to eat out of the cabinet, and what do they call that thing? The
It's not a replicator at this point.
Food synthesizer.
right, yeah, and it also synthesizes plates, napkins, trays, and the nice little dome lid that goes over your food. I wonder if that's all edible.
When you synthesize, it's all about presentation. So
his hand is hissing again, and then comes Sulu and what we say his name was? Was it O'Reilly?
Kevin Riley.
Just Riley.
Mhm.
Okay, so Riley and Sulu come in, and of course, one of them is talking about being a raper. Oh no, it's a rapier. I guess Sulu was mentioning the sword. I kind of missed the context on that quote. But they come in and he's talking down with. They're sitting with Riley and One Glove.
Joe. One
Oh,
glove.
yep.
And they notice he's got Sulu's like fencing tones the muscles. Ooh.
There's a little
And then-
subtext there.
Yeah. Now we know what he was talking about. Back then, not so much.
He's in pretty damn good shape in this episode. Well, the story was when they found out he was going to go shirtless, like 4 days before, they said he stopped eating and just started working out and doing push-ups and sit-ups because he's like, oh no, I'm going to be on screen with my shirt off. Yeah.
I just know that wouldn't work for me. So
I need more than 4 days too. Yeah.
Yeah.
I need about 4 years.
Yeah.
Can we do this episode in season 5? So Joey One Glove is kind of going freakazoid because he's saying we don't belong out here in the universe. We do nothing but destroy. So he's slowly turning Karen, and he grabs a butter knife and tries to stab himself.
That's an interesting point on that slide before, though, where, do we belong out here? And, as ridiculous as even as the actor said, I'm the only actor who's probably ever killed himself with a butter knife. But it's an interesting point in terms of, he says a line like, if we were meant to fly, we would have wings, or, should we be out there? Should mankind, should we out there exploring, or, what are we bringing to the galaxy? So there's a nice subtext going on, in between the horror and this, the guy basically going nuts there. And I think that looks like a knife from one of the, if you've been on an airplane back in the day when they used to have knives,
Service
looks
knife,
almost like the service knife from American Airlines knife or something like that.
Although they did miss a golden opportunity for McCoy to say he spread Jim.
So he says we don't belong out here, and
yeah, they are.
They start to fight, trying to get the knife away from him, and then these two are just like, huh?
They're so engrossed in their checker game they can't help.
None of them moved.
Huh, look at that.
They stood up towards the end and didn't do anything.
Nope. Isn't Starfleet all about helping?
Well, this is so early on, I guess, too. But yeah, at least they would have called for security, I think, on the intercom.
Yeah.
Really. Yeah.
I saw a red shirt there, off screen there a little bit. So, I was like, hey, I'm off duty, not my problem.
And they can't show much blood here, back in the 60s, too. So it's not that graphic. But you can imagine if it's a wound that would end up killing him, killing him, I think it'd be a lot worse. But, I'm sure that's all they could show back then, too.
Well, that looks like the typical wound you'd get from a butter knife. So maybe
it is accurate.
Dead on accurate, yeah.
So now Riley has the snake virus, and it's always the right hand. Why is it always the right hand? So they go back to the bridge, and they're witnessing the planet's destruction. And Kirk notices, he says in his supplemental that a totally new and unusual disease has been brought on board. And Riley tries to wipe it off on his pants, but can't. And now Sulu has it too. He's got the stickiness in his fingers, and some of these guys, it hits quicker. Do they ever mention why it hits certain people quicker? Like all of a sudden Sulu has it, and he's getting up and wanting to get off the bridge and go play with his sword, and Riley stays at his post, right? And then they leave.
Then he goes off, yeah.
So it hit Sulu first, who got it the same time, and we see that.
Well, certain people can handle the liquor better than others, I guess.
I guess maybe that's what it is, because they do say it mimics alcohol in the blood system, and maybe because he's so thin and short, you know, that's why it hit Sulu first, because
Or
he's a
you
little
just saying the
smaller.
Irish guy can hold it better.
Well, maybe that's what it is. Is the
Well, for a big guy, I definitely can't hold my liquor. So yeah, down goes Frazier. Yeah, that would have knocked me out pretty quick. Yeah.
So then we go, and McCoy is operating on Johnny One Glove. Did Johnny? Did we call him
Joey.
Johnny? Joey
Joey.
One Glove. And he can't figure out why he's dying. What do you guys think? Why do you think he's dying? He's lost the will to live? Is that
That's
that-
it exactly?
is that? I mean,
Well, you assume that the disease is affecting him, you know, in physical ways too. But you know, the mind is really important to healing. I mean, there's no doubt that you know, how you think or work through something. There's a lot to it. So, I mean, it might sound a little, you know, crazy, but McCoy does act very well in this scene with Chapel. You know, conveying the doctor that can't believe a patient's dying when he shouldn't die in him. So I liked his emotion and his acting. He's just so great as Bones.
Yeah, no,
Mm.
D has another good scene too at the end when he's yelling about getting the reports, like they've got an answer and he can't get in touch with anybody. But you know, it could also be he's operating with salt and pepper shakers, which is not conducive to actually operating on somebody. But and then we have the death scene.
and then Sulu gets up. He's like, "Hey, let's get out of here." And he's like, "I'm sweating like a bridegroom."
Well, you should.
And then he starts to put his moves on O'Reilly. He's like, "Hey, let's
Why
go
don't you
play
come
with."
down
go
to
to
the
the gym.
gym with me, Kevin Millet? And you said this got rewritten over the weekend?
Well, actually, the author didn't like some of Roddenberry's dialogue. What was the original scriptwriter's name? Mark Daniels is the director. Who was the
Mark
was the
Daniels did
writer?
quite a few. Yeah.
Yeah. So he had to do two of these back to back. Who was the writer of this episode?
Roddenberry was not renowned for
Oh.
his ability to write dialogue.
Yeah, John D.F. Black. So John Black.
Yeah, okay. John Black, yeah.
So, and Roddenberry had sought him out, and but they had a big fight over. You know, everyone would be that way too. I mean, you know, if I get mad if people are correcting, you know, what I've written at work for some copy or something too. So, you know,
Sure,
I
it's
guess
human nature.
it's personal. It's human nature. So, I think like the line in the beginning that he didn't like that line where we've never encountered anything like this before. Roddenberry added that, and he thought that was too over the top for the episode. But
You know, the line's not bad, but I don't know. I think the music and the zoom close up with the music, it just sends it way over the top.
too much, yeah.
So Spock turns around and notices that Sulu has taken off, and Riley's like, "Well, you got me. You know, you don't need anybody else." And they let Uhura drive, and this other guy.
This other guy, Mr. Leslie?
Mr. Leslie.
Mr. Leslie, the only man to have been killed and come back the following week?
Yeah. Well, it was tough to see on your little 9-inch black and white TV sometimes
That's
what these people look like. You know, now watching on a 65-inch, the HD version on the Blu-ray. I mean,
Mr. Leslie is. I will tell you that Mr. Leslie was, even though he had maybe 2 lines of dialogue in the entire show, he was like the Miles O'Brien of the original series, that you would always see him in the background, or he'd be on the bridge working the station, but he was always around.
And what was interesting about his, as you said, his speaking lines, he got so nervous because he never usually spoke in the series.
Yeah.
They wrote it down in grease pen on the console there, and he flubbed his last line. Couldn't say the last line, so Nimoy came over and read the last line. Put his arm, went up to the console and read the last line. The director's like, "Cut, go to print."
Yeah, you
move
can't be
on.
doing this. I
So, but I guess it gotta be nerve wracking, right? I mean, I'm used to being on YouTube now, but the first few times I was on YouTube, I was, a wreck, inside.
Sure.
I don't know if I showed it. Now I'm used to it, or public speaking. It just, I had a meeting last week for a group and had to, the other person didn't want to speak. Like, can you speak? I'm petrified to have to, and it doesn't bother, I understand why people get nervous by it. But I can imagine, with the lights, camera, action, and usually you're just Mr. Leslie holding the phaser. Now you got to say lines.
Yeah.
It's got to be nerve wracking, right? I mean,
Yeah, you're usually walking, escorting somebody while holding a gun. That's about it that Mr. Leslie
Yeah.
did. But
So he goes down to sick bay to get checked out, and he starts checking out Nurse Chapel. That Nurse Chapel?
yep.
that
her
is
first
Nurse Chapel.
appearance.
Yeah.
Nurse Chapel, yep. Christine. She's got the symbol with she's got the Delta with the Red Cross. Which do they do that a lot? Has that made a return?
That's a good question. I can't remember if that's just the nurse's uniform or.
I think it's only the nurse's uniform because retro continuity wise, Strange New Worlds, I believe she has a Red Cross on her badge and Dr. Mabanga does not.
And this is a way for she was number 1 in the pilot in the cage. So Gene Roddenberry gets his wife on this. He writes his wife in his show, and he said, "Well, give her blonde hair. Maybe the studio won't notice." And of course, he's also having an affair with Uhura at this time too, I believe.
Actually, she was his miss. She wasn't even Mrs. Roddenberry at this time.
Yeah, she's the mistress. Yeah, she's
the mistress. Yeah,
and her is the girlfriend. Nichelle Nichols is the girlfriend.
All right, so we got to do some math again. So this is so Roddenberry's married.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe I spoke wrong. Maybe he's not married at this point. I thought he was married, but
no, he's married at this point. Yeah.
Oh, he's married. Okay.
And he's hooking up with Nurse Chapel while he's got Uhura on the side.
I don't know how serious the thing with Nichelle was. I read her book years ago, and I don't recall it being all that serious. Like I think he had. I'll tell you what happened. He not directed. Nichelle did a guest spot in the show previous to this that he did, The Lieutenant, and I think that's where he met her. And I think they kind of hooked up there. And by the time Star Trek came around, he was already with Majel. So it was kind of over with Nichelle by the time this happened. So
I'm looking at his he's married to Eileen Anita Rex wrote, divorced 1969. And then he married Majel in 69. Yep.
He's a quick operator, I guess.
Well, 2 lovely ladies. Yep.
Well, 3 if you count.
3. Wife,
Yeah.
wife at the time. Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And I'm sure countless others.
Yeah. We don't want to say anything, but
Allegedly.
now Sulu comes out with his rapier and just goes, I guess he's just losing his mind faster and faster. And
Originally, they wanted him to have the director said, "Why don't you have a samurai sword?" He's like, "No, well, let's do something. It's too generic or too obvious." He's like, and he said, "What have a foil or like for fencing?" And I said, "Well, can you fence?" And of course, he lied. He said, "Yeah, I can do. I'm a great fencer." So he's practicing over the weekend. Pretending to. It's like
I'm sure he was.
His quote was like, "Don't." Don't ever ask if an actor's an expert in something because they'll say yes.
Yeah. And then Martin shared this with me. What was it? Was that this morning?
Yeah,
Oh,
early
cool.
this afternoon, late this morning.
That
This
don't have that one.
iconic moment. Yeah.
that is pretty neat. And then there's that like a pop figure or
It's a bobblehead, I think.
Don't mess with Sulu.
Oh my.
Well, that's
Look at
one of,
those abs.
one of the most abs. Yeah, it's one of the most famous scenes of his from probably. That's one scene everyone remembers if you watch the show, right? So,
And that one,
the custom action figure, I guess.
yeah,
or-
Yeah, I
that
think
one
that was
looks
a
like
custom.
Shang-Chi.
Yeah, I could see it. Totally could see it.
So that's pretty neat to see that. I didn't realize that because I collect a lot of the Hallmark, but I didn't see that one. And what
I
was that?
missed one.
Was that 18 or 19?
2018.
Yep. Yeah. Where's my? I grabbed the lid.
So then he runs into just out of the shower guy and discount. It's basically this is like Dollar Tree Field Dan Fielding. So he wants to challenge them to a sword fight, and they just turn and run away.
They're smart, right?
It's like that scene,
smart.
yeah, from The Princess Bride. Where
They tear off down the corridor.
they tear off down the hallway.
You killed my father. Prepare to die.
So then she gets disturbances in level 2 corridor, and Kirk. He's everywhere so quickly in this episode. He is in every place that he needs to be the minute that they mention it. Like, she just says, there's a disturbance, and the next thing you know, he's down there and attacking Sulu with, who's carrying a sword. And then all of a sudden, they're back on the bridge. And he's...
Captain.
One thing that just cracks me up, Sulu comes to the bridge with a sword, and the first thing Kirk does, goes over and touches the pointy end and goes, "Ooh, it's sharp." He takes his hand back, and I think in myself when I saw that's how you get to make captain. Making sure the sword is sharp. Mm-hmm.
The director actually took the sword away from Takei and pulled it because he was getting too close to Shatner. Actually, when they're shooting it, he's like, "Give me that!" and like hit the prop department, like dull the tip.
If you hit that toupee, do you know how much those cost?
Yeah.
But was he wearing a wig back then?
Oh yeah.
I don't think he wasn't even back then.
Oh yes, he was, because between seasons, I want to say between season 2 or 3, or at the end of 3 when it was canceled, the studio sent him a bill for his unreturned hairpieces.
Oh.
So yes, he was, and it's funny if you look, and I've never noticed it before, except maybe 2 years ago. Under certain lighting conditions, all up here is like chestnut brown, and all back here is all dark brown. It doesn't match. You can almost see the hairline does not match. And yes, John, harking back to what you said, now we're getting to prototypical Spock. Notice the body calm, relaxed, simply puts the hand on the shoulder. That's the Spock we all know and love.
Right. And this is the scene that made me think of that, because, you know, watching it, you know, you see, wow, he's becoming the Spock that we know, not the Spock that everybody thinks he is. Because if you watch all these actors or comedians or anybody who's trying to do a Spock impression, they do not know how to do Spock. It's like they've never seen what Leonard Nimoy does. They've just seen the other Vulcans and how the Vulcans, the way they speak and act. And I always liked the way he did it, because, I mean, he is half human. So there is that little bleed of difference in a full, like, even between like him and Savick in Star Trek 3. Savick is more, you know, the logical, and, you know, Sarek is the monotone. And that guy who does Spock now on Strange New Worlds, I cannot. It is horrible.
Well,
I think it's horrible.
They've explained that this is a Spock who's still kind of feeling his way before he gets to this Spock. You know, it's funny you should bring up Savick, right? About how stoic she was in Star Trek 3. Completely different take on the character than the Savick we saw in Star Trek 2. And I always wondered why they kind of made that choice, because, you know, a big part of what Savick was supposed to represent, had it gone the way that they had planned on going, is, you know, the line gets cut out that Savick is half Romulan. And if you've ever seen the deleted scenes, Spock even says she'll have a harder time managing both halves than even I did. And then, and you see some of that in Kirstie Alley's performance there. You can see annoyance on her face. You can see emotional moments, and then she brings it right down. I thought she was doing a pretty damn good Spock in Star Trek 2. Robin Curtis comes along, and then we go right into the stoic Sarek version of a Vulcan, without that kind of duality. And I always wondered if that was a conscious choice or just something that the actor decided to put their spin on.
Yeah, you don't know, you know, the way Nicholas Meyer described the character to Kirstie Alley. So that's interesting. But Kirk jokes that you know, you need to show that to me one day, and then Spock actually cracks a joke here.
Yeah, he does.
And I thought it was great. You know, you know, I don't know if he meant it to be funny or just descriptive. When he calls,
And that's actually. Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
no, go
I was
ahead.
gonna say, Vulcans excel in sarcasm, whether they choose to believe it or not. So I thought it was a little sarcastic line, but I didn't think it was out of character, not from his human half, but more from his Vulcan half.
Oh, and this is also his the first time you see the neck pinch on TV, but it happens in the useless trivia. Enemy Within is, you know, in Proud Order before this, so that's technically the first Vulcan neck pinch. But this is the first time you see it on on TV as broadcast. But it's when we did Clobberin' Times channel, when they did TOS with Raquel, they watched we had it in Proud Order, and you can actually see the series evolve. And it's I think that first season, other seasons really doesn't matter, but that first season, especially if you watch it in production order, kind of you can see the genesis of the characters, not that things are tied together, but you can see how they're figuring things out along the way. So I always say watch that first season if you can in production order, if it's if it's the first time or if you want to do that for fun. But yeah, so it's that neck pinch is just such a great invention by Nimoy. It's just so fantastic. So it works great, because originally you're going to knock him out, and he says, Vulcan's not going to knock someone out, right? He's going to have something more elegant,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
more
it's-
elegant than a clumsy blaster, right? So
That
right.
yeah, I mean the neck pinch, it really comes in handy. So then they're checking the planet's atmosphere, and they have 20 minutes. And I think when I looked at the clock, there was actually 20 minutes left in the episode, which is kind of like what they did last week, right? Didn't they say, oh wait, no, last week was if you don't hear from me in 12 hours,
12 hours.
just
Yeah,
leave.
no, the episode only felt like 12 hours. It wasn't actually 12 hours.
So then they're trying to get Riley, who's locked himself in. Is that engineering? Right?
Engineering, yeah.
That what that says on there? Yeah, he's locked inside engineering,
Room, yeah.
and serenading the crew, and ordering ice cream for everybody. And
Orders the ship's cooks, if anybody noticed that. Harkening back to the turkey episode from Charlie X. So do we have cooks? Do we have food synthesizers? I don't know.
Yeah, both, maybe.
Yeah, both. Yeah.
and the cooks are always looking over their shoulder, wondering when they're getting laid off.
Well, those butter knives are dangerous in there too, so you got to watch out.
So he's locked in engineering, and we come up with a brilliant plan. Instead of cutting through the door, we're going to cut through the wall. But if we cut through the wall only in this spot, we'll be safe. If we cut through the wall in any other spot, I have to be very careful, or the ship will explode. So I don't know why.
Did you happen to get a screen capture of that cut?
Well, and the original version, they didn't have time to add the phaser fire. Now in the remaster, they actually added the phaser. They put the phaser in. I guess maybe you'd explain it away. The door is a blast door, so it's easier to cut through that side of the panel there. Maybe you could explain it away that way.
Don't we have tubes running all through this ship? There's no tubes that go directly to engineering. The only reason that it kind of made me laugh is that for some reason Scotty has to cut a vaguely Texas-sized shape in the wall.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that's the start of it. But by the time he's done, it looks a little bit like Texas.
Well, that's the difficult piece to drop in Tetris.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And as nice it is to have the phaser beam put in, they didn't bother to put in a sound effect. So that must have been a silencer equipped phaser.
So through all this,
pretty straight too. It's pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, no, for a guy who drinks a lot, he's got steady hands.
So McCoy has discovered that he needs the ship steady because they're running tests. So I don't know what kind of, if they just have him on the table and Sulu keeps rolling off the table, or if he's actually, trying to get blood samples with the hypo needle, or so they're running tests on him, and Scotty becomes the I don't know what's his name. Actually, from the other Star Trek, he played Scotty. He's the guy that's always crawling around things in the Mission Impossible series, right?
Yes. Why is his name escaping me?
Simon Pegg.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you, Debbie.
This is the first time you see the Jeffries tube. I can't remember, but this is such a cool set design here. You see this many times on the series, but can't remember. This is the very first time, but
This is, yeah, I think this is, well, depending on what order we're talking about.
We're not talking about the
yeah, early on in seeing the Jeffries tube. Let's put it that way.
Yes.
This is the
it's-
first time I remember seeing a Jeffries tube.
Yeah.
So.
It happens sometime
Named
in
after
season
Matt
1.
Jeffries, the set designer. Yeah.
So then we're cutting the Tetris.
And the one thing is Spock is telling him they don't have enough time, and then Scotty stops phasering. I'm like, why don't you keep phasering if you're not
Can't
gonna
do two
fix
things
this
at once.
calculation there?
It's a union job. So
So they're gonna take the engines offline to get them online. Is that's what happens, right?
No, Riley had shut down the engines completely.
And
Yeah,
that's why it
so
was
they
going to
went-
take 30 minutes to restart.
Yep.
He just didn't like turn them off. I guess totally shut down the antimatter matter reaction. If you want to, I guess that's the way they explain it. So
Mhm.
you got to warm the engines up before you start them. You know, kind of like here in the Northeast where you got to warm your carp for 20 minutes if it's a cold winter if you want to drive. I remember reading an article of like guy, said you should never warm your carp, just drive. I'm like, are you in Southern California? Have you ever lived in the North? Like, you can't drive your car unless it warms up for 20 minutes sometimes. I mean, you got to get the ice off of it.
So I guess it's kind of like the old glow plugs from like diesel
Yeah.
generators where you turn the glow plugs on so you can burn the fuel. So now we have down back in sick bay, Spock is starting to feel it, right? Oh no, this
No,
is
he catches it
this yeah, this Chapel
Before he
comes out.
gets it, right?
Yeah, Chapel comes out and she's got it.
Yeah.
And she's starting to get a hankering for some green-blooded
Hobgoblins.
hobgoblins. Yeah.
Hmm.
So she's like, I'm in love with you, Mr. Spock. And then we have the snake. Now Spock's got it.
Yep.
Spock's got the fever. But he's fighting it. He's fighting his emotions. So is only half his blood if infected, feeling drunk.
I guess the Vulcans, I mean, they're not void of emotion. They're just void of showing the emotion, right? So probably
He's losing his
'cause-
control of it.
Yeah.
in control. Yeah.
And then this was just such a great scene. We get the lip bite, and he just doesn't know what's. He doesn't know what's happening, or he understands what's happening, but he is struggling to prevent it.
And this is where I think the great Spock popularity starts, is right after this episode. Because you're absolutely right. This is a masterpiece of acting. This short sequence, and when you think about what was on TV at the time, you probably never saw a grown man go through an emotional crisis and wind up sobbing at a table on network television. And I just thought it was an amazing, amazing performance that he put in here.
I agree. Yeah. And he said, I was reading, up on this episode tonight, and he said before that he used to get a couple of hundred letters a week. He said after this episode, Nimoy said after this episode aired, he started getting 10,000 letters a week. It just hit a chord, like you said, it hit a chord with everyone. And it's, the little things that an actor can do that you take for granted by, the expression on his face, biting the lips there, and then, it's the little things you take for granted that really bring that character to life. You mentioned Ethan Peck's performance, and it's almost impossible to have anyone that can portray Spock other than Nimoy. I mean, it's just it's a thankless task. So and you see the brilliance of Nimoy, just like you said in that couple
Right.
minute scene there.
Right. Even Zachary Quinto, for what everybody thought he did for Spock, does not compare to what Leonard Nimoy did.
No, and my chief complaint with Zachary Quinto's interpretation was that Spock always had an underlying layer of anger. There was always this just simmering right below the surface, which that's not Spock. There's no other way to put it. That's just not Spock. You could have simmering emotions, but with him, it was just always kind of subseething, let's call it. Like he could snap at any minute, which is really not what you expect from Spock.
Right. And then we can have, a discussion on the alternate timeline that, the first Trek movie created. Did the whole thing that happened with the Romulans, could that have affected Spock's growing up? And, was Spock bullied as a kid like he was in the movie? So it's when you start to throw the whole different timelines in there, which one is the one that you go with? And is there an excuse for, not saying an excuse, but, is there a reasoning for the difference in the character types?
Yeah, that's a good point.
So here's your Texas-sized hole with some glowing lights inside, and they're going to break through the door, and he's telling everybody to set their phasers because they don't want to kill him. And then we cut back to Spock, who's still walking the hallways and having an emotional crisis. And like you say, he just sits down at the desk and starts sobbing. Is that from the struggle, or is that from him wanting a relationship with somebody that he knows he shouldn't?
I think what it probably is just regret. I think Spock is a character that has a lot of regret in his life. And, when they said this mimics alcohol intoxication, you've got your happy drunks, Sulu. You've got your sad drunks, Spock. And then you got your functional drunks, Scotty. So I just think it's regret when you think about his strained relationship with his father that we're going to find out about, the fact that he's probably extremely lonely, being the only Vulcan on the Enterprise, that he tells Kirk that when I feel friendship for you, I feel ashamed. So it's even the things that he wants to do, he feels that he can't. So I just think the guard is down and the emotions are just flowing. And we've all had moments like that. This is, to me, a really relatable kind of thing that happens.
And that was part of the mission of Star Trek,
Mhm.
was to like put the messages out there, but in a way that people don't know that they're getting a message.
You hit them over the head with the message they didn't know they were getting. And I mean, quite frankly, if I'm asked about production order next week, you might get this reaction from me at the beginning of the podcast.
So they break into engineering and nobody shoots anybody. So the two guards grab him. Do they get the disease now? I guess it doesn't matter because
You know, it's interesting you bring that because I wrote some notes today. Why are we trusting anybody with a phaser right now? You don't know who's got it and who doesn't have it.
I guess it's set to stun at least, hopefully, right? Yeah.
Or they took
Alec,
the batteries out. I don't know, but
Alec Baldwin's not on the set, so
Yeah. Passing out phasers to a bunch of drunks is probably not, in the Starfleet manual. But okay,
at this point, do they know how it's? Do they know? They don't know how it's spread at this point either. I guess, right? That's a little
No.
bit later than
Mm-mm.
McCoy finds.
Not yet.
So they don't know. I guess they're just trusting the security guards don't have it. Yep. But I think they would have shot him if he'd started to sing that Kathleen song again, though. He was under
I
orders
know
to
I would have
shoot.
shot myself.
you knew one song.
But then we have Kirk. Kirk is like, we have 8 minutes left. We need the pizza here, and Scotty says, I've got to have 30 minutes,
We cannot change the laws of physics.
or the oven. So Scotty was the precursor to Domino's, 30 minutes or less.
Or your warp core's free.
Now, why does Sulu scream in agony when he gets the shot? That is it like a
Sobering up too quickly.
is that what it is? It's like what do they call that? Just getting
Withdrawal.
Kirk gets the shot and doesn't even react later on. So I just chalk this up to the longer you're infected, maybe the more painful it is to cure.
Well, see, that's another thing is that, when was Kirk infected? Because he is touching everybody
He grabbed Riley.
on the bridge, right?
It wasn't until Spock infects him.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
But he turns Riley around in the chair. I remember that. But yeah, it's in the briefing room. I think Spock infects him.
Yep.
But, like Kirk was touching everybody that was infected and never got it. So,
Well, to be fair, there was a line in there where Kirk says, "I've got the disease," and we're all going, "Yeah, which one?" I think you got space penicillin for that last week, Jim.
so this is what confused me. So, was it when he says it's water? What does that mean? Does that mean the solution, the antidote is water, or the water was poison
It's the water.
and the folks on the planet
It was
drank the water?
contaminated.
Well, we'd have to wait 20-something years until the sequel episode, which kind of explains that the water molecule was changed. So this virus gets into the water, changes the structure of the water molecule, and it starts acting like a virus in humanoids.
Oh no, that's right. That's what McCoy says. Is it gets in and it acts like alcohol in the bloodstream.
Yep. But I think the next gen Naked Now kind of goes into the whole altering the structure of the water molecule because they had nicer graphics.
Now I'm gonna have to watch that one now.
Yep.
And what is that? Is that episode 2?
Yeah. right out of the chute.
We were all groaning after we liked Encounter and Farpoint. And they're like, "Oh my God, they're doing the Naked Time again. What, don't they have any new stories?"
And what were you saying about the Naked Now before?
Well, it was actually they'd written it. Roddenberry wanted to have it in the third season, so he wrote a treatment, and then filed it away. It never got made, and I believe there was a writer's strike going on around that time at TNG. I could be wrong, and they needed some scripts, or maybe that was just they were went to the well, and right away when they went with that, the Naked Now, it's like, oh my God, come on, that would maybe later in the series it wouldn't have been as bad, but right out of the gate to do that episode again, we're all shaking our heads like, once, because we did, like, I remember my friends and I were like, kind of far point, we're like, what are they doing here? So
Spock is feeling, and he's basically spilling his guts to Kirk, and they have no time left because they have to regenerate. The engines were shut off, so they fight each other. Spock. Well, now does Kirk get it with the slaps? Because he slaps him twice or 3 times.
I think it's when Spock grabs his hand to stop him from slapping him again.
Yeah, so
Actually, when he slapped him, he could have gotten it.
right. That's what I
Not
mean.
just,
Is
not
like,
just stopping his hand.
is there like long contact, or does it, like, if you just does that?
it's sweat, I guess, right? So it's a sweat. So depends on how long, and I guess it does take a while to take effect either way, right? So,
If they had
but he
just
gets it
put
pretty
in
quick.
X's every 6 feet on the Enterprise floor,
Would've
none
been
of this
safe.
would have happened.
Yep.
So they have a little scrub down in this in the briefing room, and it actually, when you think of it, now that he's got it, it hits Kirk the quickest because he just got it from Spock, and within 30 seconds he's turning.
And Scotty looks like he instantly regrets walking into the conference room.
Yeah. That's another really well done emotional scene there too, where Kirk is basically saying he's married to the Enterprise, and duty and honor. He can't have a long term relationship, or have a family, or you sacrifice a lot for this role. So that was
Yeah,
another well done scene.
The famous "No beach to walk on" speech.
Yep.
Yeah, he
Juxtaposed with Spock. Yeah.
right. So he goes back up to the bridge, and he's still infected now. And luckily, the doctor is there to rip his shirt and stick him in the arm.
Couldn't he just gone through the shirt? I mean,
Of course.
for drama. Yeah.
Of course. You ruined a perfectly good tunic.
Yeah, how much is that shirt worth today? If it does exist, though, could you imagine
Yeah, it's
the
probably
ripped
pretty penny.
shirt from the Naked? Yeah, I mean, from the Naked Time. Yeah.
So here you I guess the effects of the serum haven't really posted up yet, because he's got the clenched fists, like he's still fighting it, and he's staring at Yeoman Rand.
Roman Rand, yeah.
So I think he's still under the effect of the virus.
He almost touches her.
Yeah.
He leans out with his hand like this to stroke her face, and then he stops.
So then they realize they can't they can't get the ship warm enough, and they were just like, just do it. And here we get the famous Picard line.
Hey, Picard stole that.
And does he say this at any other time?
Not that I recall.
Because I saw that.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it took me aback when I saw, the engage. And so then
It sounds more professional than let her rip. And speaking
Yeah.
of letting her rip,
yeah.
so let me ask everybody, what is this supposed to represent? Is this the planet coming back together? Did the planet break up? Is this just a really shitty optical effect? I mean,
I think that's the planet disintegrating, right? I mean, that's the planet's gone now. It's
but they're
Yeah,
going
that's-
backwards. So if they're
Maybe
going
it's going
backwards in
back
time,
together.
shouldn't it be going back together?
Yeah.
That's why I said at the beginning, the science in here makes no effing sense. So, and I'll, yeah. Anyway, I'll save it to the end.
Oh yeah, and well, we're getting to that where they go backwards. But could they have gone back and warned themselves not to let this happen since they went 3 days in the past?
There's
Or am
two
I the only one who thought
enterprises
of it?
now. That's
Am
the
I the
problem
only one
I
who
have
thought
with
of it?
this episode. There are now two enterprises existing at the same time,
Right.
which nobody on board seems to have remembered. Oh yeah, there's another version of us out here who haven't done this yet.
But who's eventually going to go back in time 3 days so that enterprise will then in 3 days only be one enterprise.
So what do? Get a 3-day pass? Like we're
I
just
guess.
gonna wait
Yeah.
this out and
Yeah, they can't screw with the 3 days in the past, I guess. But
it kind of
just
blew
shows
my
that-
mind because at the end I'm like, wait a second, and this was like years ago. There's two effing enterprises out there.
And does anybody call Joey One Glove and say, hey, keep the gloves on and don't sniff your fingers?
yeah.
Yeah, you beam aboard, switch out the duty roster immediately, and
Yeah, because later in Star Trek, of course, they make time travel a thing, which I'm sick to death of time travel in Star Trek. But and this is a total accident, which I kind of like, like this form of time travel. But yesterday's Enterprise, and they make it like they can time travel at will. And then later, Star Trek, they have a temporal division and DS9. They study that at the Academy, and it's a thing. But
you're
Here it's
looking at
just
the
an
man
accident.
probably responsible for the creation of the temporal division.
Yeah.
What did they say? 17 violations. The man was a menace.
Yeah.
Yep. And the trials and tribulations. Yep.
So then at the end of the episode, I notice he says, we're going backward in time. And then they're going forward in time. When the lights turn green, we're going forward again. So we went. The clock is now ticking up. And Spock says we've regressed 71 hours. So he mentions that it's, this could open the doors to some, different things. Was there a time travel episode that they were going to link to later on? Where, or is this, was somebody watching this and said, let's go back in time and get the whales?
The way I looked at it, that they had planned an episode where they go back to the Academy and chanted under the sea dance. And Kirk tries to have sex with his own mother. But gee, that does sound like a Roddenberry script now that I say it out loud. I think it was probably just left open in case they needed a quick script that they could go back to the well of time travel. Now, the Enterprise does go back in time a few times during the course of these episodes. Not necessarily this way. The The whale version was, I think, the episode with Captain Christopher, Tomorrow is Yesterday, was the slingshot maneuver that they eventually use in Star Trek 4. Otherwise, it was always some sort of cosmic phenomenon that sent them back in time, or Guardian of Forever,
or a mistake.
there are no
Yeah,
mistakes in
mistake,
Starfleet.
Well, in this book, I have These Are the Voyages. Which is
Great
a really
series
cool
of book, by the way.
Yep.
Excellent.
So there's it said the naked time almost gave us double the nakedness. It was actually intended to be a 2-part episode. As presented up until the final few minutes, we see part 1. Part 2 was to deal with the Enterprise traveling back in time. This chapter of the story would have to wait. See Tomorrow is Yesterday. So
Okay.
and Roddenberry did want to do a sequel, yeah. So most of they didn't know what was the only Menagerie was the only 2-parter in TOS, but yeah, it makes sense, right? That that would be perfect. You had to have them go back in time, and then you can almost watch those episodes back to back. It would make perfect
Yeah.
sense. Yeah,
I mean, in the one with Gary 7, it starts out that they were purposely sent back through time. Huh?
makes no sense. Yeah,
Starfleet ordered them to go back in time to observe this moon launch. Okay, is that something Starfleet does regularly? Is order entire crews to go back and potentially destroy the timeline?
only if it's a backdoor pilot with
I-
Terry Garr and someone
Yeah.
who's the lead actor, and that
Must
dude's
be
great.
Robert Lansing. Yeah, I guess
Yeah.
there's a regulation for that.
Yeah, that was a good episode, but yeah, that always bugged me about that. Just we traveled back.
Yeah, under orders.
Yeah, and I gave all my relatives in the past winning lottery ticket numbers too, but
Gray's
almanacs.
Sports Almanac.
Almanac. Yeah.
So now, where is the Enterprise going 3 days? Are they heading back to the planet to do their mission? Or are they
No,
going?
that's the other Enterprise's job. They're off.
Yeah, no, they're headed to their next mission. They say at the end, right? Wasn't the last line
Mhm.
like we're off to the next mission, or so? Yeah, I think they just they've got 3 days where they can't do anything. I guess, right?
Yeah. Shore leave.
They go to shore leave. Yeah.
Yeah. There was no Risa yet.
So that is. I hate to put a number out there, but that is one of the early episodes of season 1, the Naked Time. What, Deb? Have you seen this one before?
Yeah, I mean it's been a long time, and now that I have a medical background, yeah, I had issues with the beginning of this episode. Like,
Well-
why are you breaking protocol? But yeah, I
Out of
remember
out of
watching it back
10,
in the day.
what do you give it out of 10?
Oh, let's see. I'd probably give it a 6. Definitely better than Charlie X.
Mm.
I think I gave that a negative number, didn't I? I hate that episode.
You don't like Charlie?
I don't like any episode with kids in it. I don't. It seems to ruin it.
That episode always has a place in my heart because the faceless yeoman scared the crap out of me when I was a kid.
Same here. Yep. Listen to what Mom says. You're gonna end up without a face.
You want me to get Ensign No Face in here? I'll get her.
Yeah.
Martin, what do you give this episode out of 10?
I would give it a 7 just based on performances alone. I thought the pacing was better, still lagged in a couple of spots. They're still getting their feet. But I think that the Shatner-Nimoy combination there, that briefing room scene, to me, is what the whole episode hinges on. And yeah, I'd give it a 7.
Mark?
Yeah, I give it a 8.5, and I think it's as Martin said. Yeah, it's really important. You're seeing the cast come together here, so those performances are phenomenal. So you can kind of, as much as you want to nitpick the bad, in the beginning, ignoring the protective gloves, and I totally agree with that. It is, I'm as a kid watching it the first time, I didn't notice it or really
Right.
think about it. But you kind of view Star. I grew up watching Star Trek, so viewing it, and especially when you're gonna review something too, you have to really look at it and analyze things. But I think what really wins you over on this episode of the performances of Sulu. That's iconic. That role there when it's probably the most he gets to do in the whole series, I think.
Yeah.
And Spock is just Nimoy as Spock there. Really, that's when he really nails the character there. The man trap is not a really great intro to the series, but they wanted that monster of the week, so that's why they went with airing that first. But this episode, despite some of the flaws in the in the science or logic of some things, you see that cast and crew come together, and they're such phenomenal actors. But it's lightning in a bottle to get these actors together. And I was reading about it too. They even knew too. They said, we really have something good going here, and it did very well in the ratings too. So Star Trek,
Yes.
later years, I was looking at the ratings and these are the voyages, and it's coming number one in its time slot. And back then, I think it was there are millions of people watching, not like today, where there's a million things you can watch. So that's what's special about this episode. Of course, it gets made fun of all the time with the shower curtain. We, as a Star Trek fan, if I pan my camera on the room, you'd see way too much Star Trek memorabilia.
Mhm.
But you got to be able to have fun with some of this and some of these things, but then enjoy what the stories and the characters too, and appreciate what this episode does. So it's a really important episode in terms of laying down the foundation for some of our favorite characters.
Yeah, this is the first time, again, I've watched this one all the way through. I've seen bits and pieces of probably every TOS episode. Some I like better than others. But this one was always one where I would watch and from the beginning and just get bored with it.
It wasn't one
And-
you drank too much and couldn't finish it, right? You didn't get you didn't get it, right? I'm just kidding. But
No, it just it was just one of
Never
those
good
that
for you, yeah.
like last week is just a struggle to get through.
Which one was
And-
last week, Charlie X, or depending which order you're watching in? Yeah.
Where no man's gone before.
Oh, Where No Man's Gone Before. The second
Yeah.
pilot. Yeah.
Oh, we're not going to do that again.
Yeah, you need to watch last week's episode and watch our frustration.
And now
Well,
we just
I
time
grew up
travel
watching-
into it, so
I grew up
I'm
watching
shocked.
Star Trek at Channel 11 in New York at midnight every night, or on the weekends too. And whatever episode was on, you'd watch it, and if you love Star Trek, but we'd all our friends and we'd grow. Well, we had to play the game like who could name the episode first. And in college we'd do that too. And it's some of our girlfriends are like, "How could you name the episode that quickly? And why am I dating you?"
Yeah.
But
Although-
and then like Alternative Factor would come on, we'd all be like, "Oh God, Alternative Factor! This is not we're gonna watch." We would watch it anyway. You didn't have you didn't have a VCR or anything. You watch what was on TV.
And I guess maybe that's why I don't know them as I do like Star Trek. I came into Star Trek during the movie era,
Okay.
and I think the reason is because it was on Channel 11, and at that time, I was a Channel 9 guy watching Benny Hill.
Okay.
So
Benny Hill
Which,
was
by the way,
excellent.
then you should have appreciated this with the Benny Hill speed the planet starts spinning at.
yes,
At one point, I started doing the music in my head. I'm like, how fast is that planet moving?
Are you
well,
allowed to
was
watch
it?
Benny Hill today anymore? Or is he totally canceled? I was kidding, but
He's probably canceled.
About last time I saw Benny Hill on TV, Antenna TV was running him like late on Saturday nights, and then he disappeared. And that was about 5 years ago. I think he's gone.
Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, getting through it, it actually is a good episode because of, what we discussed with Kirk and Spock really falling into their characters and becoming who we remember them from later on. And it was just a good, it was a good watch. I enjoyed, again, a little slow in the middle. I don't know if that has to do with filling 53 minutes of time. Would it have been better paced? We discussed it last week. If it was like today when there's only 42 minutes to fill and 22 minutes of commercials, but it is a good episode. And now I have to go back and watch episode 2 of Next Gen just to see what they mention, see if anybody takes their gloves off, and see how they get the
That's Wesley's fault, probably, right? I can't remember now.
Jordy.
Oh, it's Jordy. Yeah, I don't remember.
He catches the fully clothed person falling out of the sonic shower.
Oh,
He opens
okay,
the
that's
sonic
right, yeah.
shower. She comes out and he grabs her.
That's right. Yep.
And do you hear this?
You do.
Wow.
I'm gonna have to watch that. Well, before we wrap up tonight, I don't know if you guys have been on YouTube to see this, but I wanted to get your reactions to this. Most of you, Mark, you don't know, but I am one of the founding investors of a entertainment company called Legion M. And I don't know if you've ever heard of what Legion M is or what they do. It's a fan-owned entertainment company, and our very, very first Legion M only production. This is, usually we've done movies like Colossal with Anne Hathaway and Mandy with Nicolas Cage and Bad Samaritan with
David Tennant.
Tennant, and a couple of other little indie films. We helped that with the distributing and the kind of social media aspect. But this one that I want to get your reaction to the trailer for is our very first fully funded Legion M project, paid for by the fans, and it is for the documentary called William Shatner, You Can Call Me Bill. I don't know if you've seen this yet, but this
I heard
is
about that. Yeah.
this is the trailer. The movie opens March 22nd, which is also Shatner's 93rd birthday. So let me play this and get your reactions to this.
It's an interesting phrase, go boldly. What is there to boldly go into?
You're William Shatner.
You can call me Bill. Do we ever present ourselves as we really are to somebody else? Can we be absolutely honest? As we get older, we ask ourselves questions. Do we really know each other? Do we really know ourselves? Why are we here?
Let's go get some answers.
Risk. Risk is our business.
Everything's risky, but there's something beautiful about that.
I'll face whatever you have behind those doors and come out exactly as I went in.
I haven't changed the world. But what is a legacy are the good deeds. Go boldly. Go with courage. Go with commitment. That's what it means. And then boldly go into the next adventure. That's the story of my life. It's the search for love. symmetry, and passion. That curiosity is what keeps us alive.
Can't wait.
Hopefully the audio came through.
It did. Yep. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I'm still learning my Rodecaster, but yeah, that opens March 22nd, and you can go get tickets now. And the more tickets that get sold, it's kind of like a chicken and the egg thing. Movie houses don't know if they want to book something because they don't know if tickets are going to sell for it. So what Legion M is doing this time is they are pre-selling tickets
Smart.
to show theaters that there is an interest and how much of an interest there is. And if you go and pre-order your tickets, you also get some different collector's pins. There's 4 different collector's pins, I think, for each amount of tickets you buy. And if the movie just doesn't happen to show up in your area, or it's too far away, when the theater schedule is released for March 22nd, you get 100% refund, no questions asked. So, what do you think?
I think it looks amazing. I think it's long overdue that we have a documentary about Bill Shatner, and I'm really excited to see how you guys are going to top the Dune popcorn bucket for this one.
Well, I actually have a statue. You can't see it on the top. I have a statue of Shatner and from Where No Man Goes Before with the phaser rifle on my shelf there. So that a little bit too expensive, but God, that'd be cool to have or do a figure like that, or a little statue. But that's one of my
Sometimes you got to
favorite
treat
things I have.
yourself.
Yeah. So I bought that years ago, but yeah, everyone loves Shatner. I mean, his personality. If you follow him on Twitter, we had the No Man, No One Gone Before controversy, but if you watched him on, Denny Crane on Boston Legal, he was phenomenal on that. He's got such a great comedic delivery, and it doesn't take. And I guess the older you get, the less F's you have to give either, right?
Right.
The old grandmas in our family, they'll say whatever they want. So I love that about him, and he's a phenomenal actor. I mean, people make fun of him, but if you watch him in Sitting on the Edge of Forever, especially, some of his performance in that is phenomenal. Of course, he's done so many other great things too. So he's an American treasure. And years ago, I got to meet Leonard Nimoy. I got to go to the world premiere of Wrath of Khan as a little kid. It was a fundraiser for our Catholic school because Gary Nardino was the head of Paramount, and his niece happened to go to my school. So they had a choice between Grease 2 or Star Trek 2, and thankfully they picked
made the
Star
right
Trek
choice.
2. They made the right choice. Of course,
Yeah.
Grease that wouldn't go over so well with the Catholic school
Right.
crowd and the nuns, but I have tickets from that signed by Nimoy. I'm like, oh God, someday I wish I could get Shatner to sign my some of my merch from that world premiere. So I've never gotten to meet him, but when I met, I saw Spock as a little kid. I don't know what this
Right.
is. It's a treasure that he's 93 years. What did you say? He's gonna be 93 or 92?
93.
93. God bless him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what an amazing career, and what an amazing person.
And he's going to be in Dallas at the Dallas Fan Expo in June. So if you happen to see a GoFundMe with my picture in it, I'm just going to ask for $145 for a photo op, and that's basically it. I'm trying to get the Legion. I'm trying to get the Legion M people to be at the show also, because this will probably correspond with a digital date for the documentary. And how cool would it be to have him at our Legion M table at the expo and try and talk him into a dinner.
Yep.
I don't think you have to talk very hard on that.
Well, he is an investor and one of the advisors on the Legion M board. So he loves what Legion M stands for. So
Right.
I can't wait. I don't know if you can see it right here. My
Now we
Legion
can-
M hockey jersey.
Nice.
I've changed up. My cosplay was going to be Les Grossman, but I think I'm just gonna wear my hockey jersey now that I found out Shatner's going to be there. So
Well, he's Canadian, so you've got
Yeah.
the hockey jersey and you've got the Legion M combined. So there you go.
yeah. So hopefully, fingers crossed. Well, kids, I want to thank everybody for hanging out tonight. We went a little overtime, almost 2 hours tonight.
Wow.
And that
All
was
gold.
We could have watched the episode twice.
oh, do we have to? So we will see you guys. Debbie, Marty, we'll see you next week. Mark D, thanks for coming. Tell us what you got coming up on your channel.
Sure. Yep. So Sunday Night Geekery will be tomorrow night, 10 p.m. Eastern. So come hang out with us, and we'll be talking some Godzilla. Of course, we'll be talking a little bit about Carl Weathers passing, and you never know. And tailgating food for the Super Bowl next weekend, so you can get ready. So some of my favorite tailgating recipes. So I'm not responsible for any gained weight, but yeah, it'll be a fun show, and I'm gonna pass. Yeah. I'll definitely spread the word on that Shatner documentary and Legion M. Yeah, that's great. Great to know about. And Clobberin Times has his Saturday Night Star Trek channel, so I'll make sure he has a link and puts that out for everyone, because there's a ton of Star Trek fans there as well who would love to see that movie and back it. Look at Godzilla, the Godzilla movie, how well it did. They kept extending the stay as they sold more tickets. I think it hit $100 million. So. Yeah, the more that fans go out and support these things, then we'll get some nice, some fun things. And okay, let me just show a couple of quick things. Let me grab my Doomsday machine here. I do a lot of 3D printing, so here's my. You haven't done the Doomsday machine yet. So there's my 3D printed. So I'm selling these on eBay, or if you go to my channel, you can see the links there. So this was, and then I have a different one here with I took one of those that's one of the Hallmark ornaments, the 1994 Hallmark ornament. I put that there, so maybe the scale is yeah, if you go to my channel, you'll see some of the toys and 3D printing that I do there. So that'd be fun to show. And of course, I just picked this up. This is the new Hallmark ornament. It's green.
It's
This was a
green.
share. Scotty and Picard. So they keep taking my money.
Yeah.
Things. I'm like, how can I not? I have to. I'm a big fan of Scotty, obviously. So I'm like, I can't not buy that. So, but it was great to be here, and I appreciate you and appreciate you inviting me onto the show. Oh, one more to show. I got this one here too. Here's the Hand of Apollo. This is another Hallmark from this year. So
Yeah,
it's on my Christmas
I
tree.
picked that up at their 50% off sale.
Yep, same here. Yep.
That and the Galactica I picked up.
Yeah, I got that too. Yep.
That's the one. The Galactic is the one I wanted.
That's
but
awesome. Yeah.
I couldn't find it anywhere.
I'm surprised they went back to that line. They did a Cylon a couple of years ago, which I have, and then nothing, and then all of a sudden Galactica showed up. So I was happy.
It was nice.
Yeah.
Nice. It's horrible since you couldn't get it. No, it was horrible. I'm just kidding.
So, Deb, what do you got coming up on Geek News Now?
Well, Monday I'll be on. I co-host the MCU Monday, and we are covering the series Echo. We're on episode 4, I believe, and then sometimes I'm on the Sith Dominion on Tuesdays. Right now, they're talking about the Sith Code and the individual alliance and what it means. And then Thursday, I am back co-hosting with Dave for Cantina Happy Hour. We are going over Star Wars Rebels, and we'll be doing episode 5, 6, I believe.
Is that production order or is that air date order?
I think Rebels is in order. It's
Okay.
Clone Wars that's all whack-a-job, so
I just started watching. It's really good. Rebels, yeah.
it
'Cause
is.
Brooke
It's
was on,
really
I'm like,
good.
I should watch Rebels. So yeah.
First season's a little rough, but yeah, it gets really good.
Is that where Grievous comes back?
Somehow Grievous returned.
No, that's Maul that comes back.
Oh, that's right.
Which was
Only
was
half
it
the body.
was it Clone Wars then that Grievous came back?
Well, that took place before Grievous died.
Yeah.
That Clone Wars took place between Revenge of the Sith and
Attack of the Clones.
Attack of the Clones. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not good with timelines.
But we just traveled in time back
Al-
3 days, so it's
Alternate
Yeah.
or regular?
So, Marty, you got anything you want to discuss?
Actually, there is one thing I'd like to bring up. We lost part of the extended Star Trek family last week. Gary Graham, who is one of my favorite all-round actors, and love to follow him on social media. Formerly Ambassador Soval of Enterprise, Matthew Sykes on Alien Nation, which is one of the most criminally underrated sci-fi shows of the past 40 years, passed away at 73. And he's going to be missed. And I just wanted to acknowledge his passing. He was a great guy and really devoted to the fans, loved to interact with them. And the world is missing a really great guy right now.
Yeah. I remember seeing him first in the second episode of Moonlighting.
Right. He was in that. He's in one of my favorite all-time schlocky movies, Robot Jocks.
Yeah, it's a great movie. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
good.
It's one of those like this is so bad, but it's great at the same time.
Great. I love that movie.
Yeah. And anybody I ever recommended that movie to when I was working at Blockbuster would always go, I don't know. And then they come back and go, this is really good.
It was fun, right? It's a fun movie. Yeah.
It's a fun movie. That's, check your brain at the door fun. But he was constantly working, constantly doing stuff. Did so much genre stuff over the years. But yeah, just a great actor, and it's going to be missed.
Now, I wish Bill was here tonight because if you follow Bill on Facebook, he has pictures with everybody, and I was hoping he'd be here tonight to talk about, if he ever met Carl Weathers. I'm sure he's got pictures of him and Carl Weathers, and probably him and Gary Graham, and it's like, you mention anybody, it's anybody's birthday, and Bill has a cosplay photo with them, and maybe I can stalk his Facebook and repost some of his pictures to see if he has anything with Carl and Gary in it. So, Bill, you're missed tonight. Jeff, you are missed once again. Hopefully soon he'll be back on the program. Coming up, I'm doing a new series. I'm going to start shooting a new series called Star Trek Variations, where I'm going to go through everything that I have. What did I say? Star Trek or Star Wars? Star Wars Variations.
You said Star Trek. That's okay.
Yeah.
It's a hell of a variation right there. Okay.
Yeah. What the hell?
That's the first episode.
What the hell, man? But it's called Star Wars Variations, and I have a stack of all the different soundtracks that I have for Star Wars. A stack.
Right.
between CD, LP, cassette, reel to reel. I mean, it's and then I'll move on to the videos, and because I got stacks and stacks of videos, and geez, I just got too much stuff. So, but thanks everybody. Thanks for joining in. Thank you out there for tuning in to the Geek and I podcast. We will see you very soon. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. If you're seeing us on, hearing us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, we are in all the podcasts and wherever you get your podcasts. And we don't charge, so you can listen for free. Thank you very much. We will see you next time. Live long and prosper. Good night, Carl Weathers, wherever you are. We'll see you soon.